Hi everyone, I'm Kat Lazo, also known as the Cat's Meow, and welcome to another episode of Engage by Uplift. I'm here with Hank Green.
Hi.
Laci Green.
Hey.
And Kristina Horner.
Hey.
Okay, we're going to be tackling how the internet has the power to create change. Why do you think the internet has allowed for grassroots activism?
I think it's like an equalizing force. A lot of people can have their voices heard. In traditional media, there's a lot of different barriers to having an audience, and online, anyone can go post about their experiences, and I think that makes it much easier for people to practice their empathy skills and learn about the experiences of people that they, the backgrounds that they can't necessarily relate to.
I think you also find yourself being a part of other, of sort of smaller cultures on the internet, and actually feeling like you can change that culture. So it's not necessarily that you can change the whole culture of America, but maybe you can change the way that 30 or 50 people feel about something, and that's how change actually happens.
Do you all have any ideas of how we can harness this energy to combat sexual violence?
I think continuing to talk about it. There's such a wave of trends on the internet. Something big will happen in the news or in our communities, and it'll be big news for a day or a week, and then it kind of drops off again, and we can't let it be like that because it's not solved.
I think it's really important to be giving the influencers resources so that they can be better online, better spokespeople about this stuff. They can be better educated, give them the right language. So equipping each other, not just equipping the audience, but equipping each other to be better advocates in our communities so we can keep that rolling along in an effective way.
What are some good examples of online activism?
On my channel, we worked on a LGBT conversion therapy petition that went up to the White House and is now being passed at the state level to ban gay conversion therapy. And that was pretty amazing to just watch it explode before my eyes, like how fast the petition was getting signatures, how fast the community was catalyzing, and then to see real substantive change happen. I think that for me, I already knew the internet was a powerful tool, but that just hit it home like that much more for me, because that's the exact type of the legislation change feels so far away.
There's also, I think, just if we look at the way that we can now sort of identify more easily when maybe someone who is in the mainstream or someone who has some celebrity is doing something wrong that is clearly against our morals, it's a lot easier to spread that story, to have people come out and tell the world that this is happening instead of them trying to ask a news outlet to cover this story and be like, this famous person abused me.
I'm not just saying this because Hank is in this episode with me, but seriously, the Project for Awesome was kind of my first foray into knowing about charities, really. And so I actually had to go out and do research and find out, there's plenty of things that I can do as a 19-year-old girl. And I've loved that because it really encourages people to do that research and be a spokesperson for something that they care about. And it makes it so easy for people in a way that, at that young age, I didn't even know that I could do.
Thanks.
How can fans and creators work together to actually create social change?
It's kind of about not shying away from hard topics. A lot of times I think, and this is fine, creators see the thing they do as entertainment, and it's entertaining, and if something is wrong with the world, that's not their responsibility. They're just trying to make people laugh, they're trying to make people think maybe, but they're not trying to take on the world. But I just can't. I can't feel that way. I will advocate for science all day long, and then, 6 p.m. rolls around and I'm on Tumblr and I'm pissed off about police brutality. And that's, but that is a kind of bearing of your soul to say, I want to talk about this. It's terrifying, and you never know when you're all the way right. And it's hard.
Piggyback off that a little bit, I think a lot of people are scared to talk about it. I know I went through a phase when I was really feeling like I was on my journey. I was on my social issues journey where I'm absorbing and I'm learning, and I kind of felt like I wasn't qualified to talk about it yet because I was still learning. And I reached a point where there was no wall, there's no door I was going to walk through. It's okay, now I'm an expert, now I can talk about it. And I realized that if I wasn't willing to talk about it, if I was too afraid to talk about any of these issues, how does anyone else feel like they can?
I feel pretty passionately about the issue of approach to these issues, because sometimes I feel like things are not handled very well online. Like people they're upset, they're outraged, they're mad, they're angry, all these totally valid feelings, but we have to harness it in a positive way, because otherwise people close the door. Like that's very real. They just click out and never come back. So it needs to be a safe space, and we have to be patient. And for me, like when I'm approaching my work, kindness is always central to my politics. That's kind of like one of my mottos in life. Like I try to be kind in everything I do, because I think that's the best, approach that gets people in the door, even if I'm really pissed off and I want to be angry and throw things.
Like when I first started learning about feminism, right away I was like, well, now I know all these things, and how do people not know these things? And I would get so angry at people for not knowing these things. And then I realized they're just not there yet. Like they just haven't learned those particular things, and I can like try to help them or not get angry and like let them get there. And I feel like you get to like the angry stage, and then you get to the next stage where you're like, okay, everybody's in a different place. That was helpful.
Yeah.
You all have really done an amazing job at handling these really difficult topics, so thank you so much for lending your voice. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to answer our call to action using the hashtag #EngageUplift on social media or in the comments down below. And while you're at it, why not subscribe? Thanks again. I'm Kat Lazo of the Cat's Meow. Till next time.